class track, that one, class track, Bowie. We were just saying off air, one of the most stylish men I've ever
definitely.
seen.
Yes, he's amazing. David Bowie is absolutely fantastic. He's had such a long career, and he really does embody the style icon and the rock star.
Definitely, yeah. He's lived the lifestyle as well.
He has. He took it. I think I said in my talk he took enough heroin to have killed himself several times, but he's still survived after all this time. So
constitution of an ox.
He has.
Yeah, as you know, we're here on the Lucas Jackson Random Slam here today. We have got Christy who's joined us, and we're going to be talking about Byron being the first rock star. Was he? Wasn't he? If you want to get in touch with us, 07 847 627 118 is the text number. That's 07 847 627 118. Or you can email in for free, Acacia Radio at gmail.com. That is the number one Acacia Radio at gmail.com. So if you think Byron was the first rock star, get in touch, let us know. If you disagree, let us know. If you've got any questions for Christy, let us know. Get in touch. So getting back on track, being a rock star and that, and linking Byron to it. What first got you into Byron?
I think I was really young. I was probably about 5 or 6 years old, and at that time, when I was at infant school, we went on a trip to Newstead Abbey for the day, and I remember just driving down the long drive and thinking, what is this place? And when we got there, I was completely blown away by the fact that Lord Byron had a tomb built for his pet dog.
Yeah.
And I had a pet dog at the time, and I remember thinking he must have really, really cared about this dog to have had a tomb built for it. And there's a poem on the tomb as well. His dog was called Bosun, and the tomb really extols the virtues of the dog over human beings, and saying that he's more loyal and more caring and more honest than humans.
A lot of truth in it,
yes,
really.
There is. So, and Byron was famous for having pets throughout the whole of his life. He had pet dogs, cats. When he was at university at Cambridge, he had a pet bear. A bear,
that's right, because he couldn't have...
because dogs weren't allowed.
That's right, yeah. Which,
so he got round the rules that way. So, I really sort of I didn't know really about his poetry until I was quite a lot older. And then when I was at Clarendon, when it was before it was New College Nottingham, I studied at Clarendon and studied English and drama, and really got into Byron's poetry then. And it became a bit of an obsession, really, and that's a real understatement. And ended up with me writing a play. While I was there, we had to write a play that lasted about half an hour for our lunchtime theatre sessions, which were on every Friday. And they probably still do this, but we had to write a little play, and each week you'd be doing something different in a play. So one week you'd be writing, next week you'd be acting, next week you'd be doing design or lighting or something like that. So when it came to my turn to writing, I wrote a play about Byron. It was called Strange Aspects, and it sort of went through his life and his love. So there were only four people in the cast. Yeah. So it was Byron and 3 of the ladies that who he loved during his life, and it just really, I suppose it was a bit of a the first time really that I started writing about Byron rather than just reading it.
Yeah. So, is that one of your passions then, writing? Is that
definitely
what turned you on to being a novelist?
Definitely. When I finished at university, I did various different jobs, and I also went abroad with the Southall Theatre Club and did a play called The Weathercock, which was a play that Byron was in 1809 before he went off on his grand tour.
Really? I didn't realise that.
Yes, we did that as a tour around Greece. We first performed it in Southwell, and we performed it at the Theatre Museum in London as well. And then there was a festival in Greece called the Britain and Greece Festival, which apparently was opened by Prince Charles, but I didn't see anything of him. And we did a tour. We went to Missolonghi, which is where Byron died, and where his heart is still buried. And we did a tour around and performed at various different venues, and the final performance was at the University of Athens. So that was pretty amazing at the time. So
because you've actually wrote a book yourself.
I have. This is my first novel, and it's called Framed. And I'd like to say thank you very much to my publishers, which is called Open Books. So I'm giving a big shout out to David Ross and Kelly Huddleston at Open Books, who I hope are listening at the moment. And so I decided to write a novel. It was a few years ago, really, when I got the idea. I was doing a talk about Byron at Loudon Book Festival, which was where I first did the talk about Byron being the first rock star. And I was researching Byron's life, and I just thought that there'd never really been a novel about Nottingham and about the Regency Nottingham. This is, I mean, of course, there's D.H. Lawrence and Alan Sillitoe, of course, very, very famous authors. But there'd not really been a novel that was purely about the Luddites in 1811 and 1812.
Yeah, so it sort of got brushed under the carpet in later years.
Not really focusing on the ordinary people. And at the time, Byron went to London and he made his maiden speech in the House of Lords about the Luddites, because the government wanted to bring in the death penalty for frame breaking. They'd already brought in the penalty of being sent abroad. They used to send people to Australia, to the penal colony, because it was a prison in those days.
Yeah, they said for 14 years, but not many people ever came back, did they?
Not many people survived it. A few did, but even if you survived the sea voyage to get there, it was pretty amazing, because it took so many months to get there, and you'd probably starve to death or something, or die of some horrible disease on the ship. So it was that was already a penalty, but that hadn't stopped the frame breakers from breaking the frames. I mean, the reason they broke them was because they'd brought in this new machinery, which made a lot of people out of work. Yeah. So that was the problem.
Definitely. I mean, one of the things that I didn't realise about Byron was although some people would have classed him as antisocial and things like that at times, because of his moods and things like that. He did stand up for the people. Whether he did it just to be rebellious or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah. Nobody will really know, but he did stand his ground. He did stick up for a lot of people. He did
stick up for the underdog. Even while he was at school, I think it was partly to do with the fact that he'd got a limp. He got a lame foot. Yeah. Some people say it was a club foot, but it's debatable as to what exactly the problem was. His foot was certainly deformed. But when he was at school, there was a great friend of his, Will Harness, who also was lame. He was a little bit younger than him. And Byron was, even though he was what would be classified nowadays as disabled, he was a great player of cricket. He really enjoyed horse riding, fencing and boxing.
He was a very good pugilist, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. And he said to Will Harness, who was, like I said, he was a really good friend of his at school, if anybody takes the mick out of you for having a lame foot, anybody attacks you, anybody bullies you, they'll have me to deal with. Yeah. And that put them off, because Byron...
He was a bit of a mean motor scooter in his day, wasn't he?
He was quite tasty, yes.
Yeah. So going back to music and that as well, you do play in a band as well, don't you? As well as your partner, Greg?
I do, yes. I'm in a band called Disciples of Solid Sound. We're a studio band, really. We've not done any live performances, but we may do in the fairly near future. We're recording at the moment, and we do lots of different styles of music. When I play the drums, I've not been playing very long.
I'd never have you down as a drummer, more of a keyboardist.
A keyboard player. No, I definitely play the drums, and I write the music as well. And we've got a fantastic...
Multi-talented.
Ah, well, I don't know about that. But we've got a fantastic guitar player called Scott, who's absolutely amazing. There's also our good friend Paul Thompson. He plays guitar as well, and they're just together. They are really, really great. They really feed off each other. And my partner Greg, he sings and writes. He writes a lot of the lyrics and things as well.
So do you think it's your creative edge that sort of ties Byron in as a rock star, and then you being a writer yourself, you can see things from all different perspectives?
Yes. Byron had lots of different aspects to his personality. Not only was he a writer, not only was he a poet, he wasn't one of these... People think of him as being some kind of like airy-fairy waif floating around Newstead Abbey and writing pretty poetry. But if you actually read his poems, he was very political and extremely scathing about the other authors of the day. He couldn't stand Southey, who was the ended up being the poet laureate.
Right,
and, nowadays, if you say to anybody, have you heard of Lord Byron? Most people, certainly round Nottingham area, know who he is.
Know, yeah.
But not many people know who Southey is, and he
That's
was the poet laureate.
Sort of a worldwide Byron, the fame and everything.
Yes, he's a global figure. He's still a political hero in Greece.
Yeah, they have festivals out there for him, don't they?
Yeah. And he's well known all over the world. There are Byron societies all over the world in so many different countries. Yeah. So he is definitely a global phenomenon.
So, sort of going back to the music, I know you chose a few more tracks. Which would you tie in with Byron on your list of tracks you've got there?
I would like to play a track by a Greek band called Daemonia Nymphae.
Yeah.
And they write a music that is it's played with traditional Greek instruments, and it's more sort of like the music from ancient Greece.
Got you.
I would say it's not typical Zorba kind of restaurant music. It's more.
Yeah.
It's more.
It's not plate smashing, foot stomping.
No, it's not really. It's more. I would say more earthy and more like traditional. How I would imagine the Greek music was in the ancient times.
And to trade off that one, you see, I've chose The Crystal Ship by The Doors.
Oh, lovely.
And the reason being, if Byron was a modern day poet or songwriter, this could have been penned by him. The whole lyric has a dark yet romantic edge to it. And the third verse lines, "Oh, tell me where your freedom lies, the streets or fields that never die," could have been a glimpse like into his travels and things like that.
Yeah,
and the last verse, "The crystal ship is being filled, 1,000 girls, 1,000 thrills, 1,000,000 ways to spend your time. When we get back, I'll drop a line." Could have come straight from his quill onto parchment.
It
I think,
definitely sounds like that. And of course, Jim Morrison was a great poet. So
indeed, yeah. So all sorts of ties in there. I don't. If you agree out there or you disagree, don't forget to message in 1acaciaradio@gmail.com. That is the number 1acaciaradio@gmail.com, or you can text in on 07 847 627 118. So we'll have The Doors and Crystal Ship first, because that's queued up, ready to go, and then we'll have your band again, which is called
Daemonia Nymphae.
Brilliant. So we'll see you after this, folks.
Before you slip into unconsciousness, I'd like to have a...
Well, that was Crystal Ship there by The Doors, and that was
Daemonia Nymphae.
Daemonia Nymphae, there you go. So this is Lucas Jackson's Random Slam on acaciaradio.com and 1287 AM. And I'm joined by Christy today. We're discussing Byron being the first rock star. So if you want to get in touch with us, don't forget 1acaciaradio@gmail.com is the address to get in touch with us with. And 07 847 627 118 is the text number. So, getting back on track again, you wrote a book. What's it called again?
It's called Framed, and it's a historical novel about the revolt of the Luddites.
Right.
Nottingham.
So, can you give us a brief outline, or have people got to go out and get it before they can?
Well, I'll give you a bit of an outline. What it is it's based in Nottingham. Starts off in the city centre in the lace market, which is where a lot of the textile industry was based at the time, of course. Then there are other areas of Nottingham and Nottinghamshire that are in the novel as well. There's the Old Angel pub, which is still there, which was the Angel Tavern at the time, where a lot of the stocking knitters and the people who were involved in the textile industry used to go for a drink after work. And St Mary's Church in the Lace Market as well. That plays an important role, and also Newstead Abbey, which of course was Byron's home at the time. So it's based in Nottingham, very much in the city centre, and also in the surrounding area of Nottingham as well.
So it's sort of like fictional characters, but based on true events.
All the events that happen in it. For example, the actual frame breaking. One of the frame owners gets shot. That really happened. And Byron goes to London and makes his maiden speech to the House of Lords about the frame bill, which was going to bring in the death penalty for frame breaking. Because the authorities, the penalties that they'd already got weren't working. the informants were very quiet. There was no information, and despite the rewards going up every day for any information leading to the capture of frame breakers or even people who were planning to break the frames.
Yeah.
At one point there was an offer of a reward of £50.
That was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, it was about 3 or 4 years' wages. So if you can think that nowadays it would probably be, I don't know, something like in the region of £30,000-40,000, something like that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's even with that, it didn't stop them.
Didn't deter them, really.
No, it didn't deter them.
Which, at the end of the day, it was for a good cause.
It was taking the work away from people who were very skilled. They were being de-skilled and put out of work, and they brought in untrained frame workers, frame knitters, who were called colts, and they replaced a lot of the really experienced people, really experienced employees, with young lads who didn't really know what they were doing
for a smaller wage.
Poor quality work, and it's very relevant nowadays because it's a similar situation to what's happening now. The Prince Regent was spending huge amounts of money gambling away the country's money. We were in huge debt in the country because of foreign wars. War with Napoleon at the time in the Regency period at the beginning of the 19th century, and that was taking a lot of the money out of the country as well. So it was very, very similar situation to what's happening today. It is
taking food from the table and losing trades, like you say. Also, I mean, the stress it must put on families and.
People struggling to feed themselves. There was a protest in the Market Square actually by the stocking knitters, and they had banners that said things like "Give us bread" and things like that. And they wouldn't have broken the frames just for the fun of it. They weren't just vandals. They were doing it because it was their livelihood that was at stake. And
making a statement, making a stand.
Definitely. And in those days there was no benefits. So if you lost your job, you starved. And a lot of people had large families. They had children to feed. There was nothing they could do. So
Byron made a stand, didn't he, in the Houses of Parliament. They went along and he actually wrote a couple of poems. He didn't put his name to them at first, did he?
To start off with, they were published anonymously, yes, the Ode to the Framers of the Frame Bill, and he names the politicians at the time who brought in the Frame Bill, who had brought in the legislation that was going to send people to the gallows. So yes, he was very, very angry about it because he could see what was happening in his own constituency, and he cared about the people. He'd not always been a lord. He wasn't born into the aristocracy. When he was born, he was extremely poor. His mother was Scottish, and his father was a terrible gambler, gambled away all his money, and ended up practically drinking himself to death. So Byron never knew his father, and so he'd lived in poverty when he was young. So he knew what it was like, I think, to
he knew the struggle
on the other end of it. Yes.
Because he did a song for the Luddites as well, which brings us back to the music again.
That's right. He wrote a song for the Luddites, but that was much later. That was in 1816. The Luddite activity started in Nottingham in 1811, and it carried right the way on through to 1817. So we're living through at the moment the bicentennial of it, the 200th anniversary.
Yeah, 200 years.
Right at the moment. So.
But I think this way. I mean, I know Byron. He did. I suppose in the way it's like somebody winning the lottery today, suddenly gaining all that wealth when his the fifth Lord Byron died, and then he went along. He inherited obviously Newstead Abbey and
Newstead Abbey, though it wasn't a fantastic stately home.
No,
in those
it
days.
weren't.
It was really tatty, and there were holes in the roof, and he said in one of his poems about Newstead Abbey, pervious to the wintry showers, which means that there were holes in the roof and the snow and the rain just came through. So he
was in a rundown
massively
state.
Wealthy.
Yeah.
No, he didn't have huge fortune, but he enjoyed having parties there. I mean, the track that we've just played, that hymn to Bacchus, quite appropriate because Byron used to have absolutely riotous parties at Newstead Abbey, and he drank wine from a cup that was made out of a monk's skull that was found in the Newstead Abbey grounds.
That's right, yeah. The thing is with Byron and everything like that, he did spend a lot of time at Southwell, didn't he?
He did,
Or Southwell.
yes.
It depends which part you come.
Southwell.
Southwell or
I come
Southwell.
from Southwell, so I call it Southwell.
So the thing I was thinking is, like, I mean, it went from sort of, like, say, meagre beginnings to a bit of a dandy. So I thought this next track, I chose this one. This is the Kinks and Dandy, and it could be a comically romanticised tale of Byron, especially if you look at it through rose tinted glasses and that.
And he was a great admirer of Beau Brummel, who was the best dressed man at the time, and he was the originator of the idea of the dandy. Of the fashionable man about town. Yeah.
So I think we'll have this one, and then it'll probably lead us up towards the news and that, and then we're still staying for the second half, aren't we? We're going to have a good natter and compare music. So we'll have this one. This is the Kinks and Dandy. Well, that was the Kinks there and Dandy. And I'm joined in the studio today, if you've just tuned in, by Christy, who is a local novelist. We've just been talking about your book, Framed.
That's right. Yes.
And also tying in Byron. So I know you've got a bit of an obsession with Byron, haven't you, Lord Byron?
Just a bit, yes. I've been interviewed recently by a few different people, and it seems to be that I'm described as a Byron nut.
Yeah. Byromania.
Byromaniac, yes. Also because I have a tattoo of Byron as well on my
I tell you, it's quite a very good tattoo as well. That's some nice artwork there.
Yeah, it was done by Terry Stafford. I'm not sure if he still works at the same place, but it was that's the guy who did it.
Okay.
And underneath the portrait of Byron, it says "Zouimou sas agapo," which is Greek, meaning "My life, I love you." And it's from one of his poems called The Maid of Athens.
You'd never take a walk with me.